Hello everyone, I think we're ready to get started. Alrighty, well welcome to tonight's Student-Led Board of Education Candidate Forum here at Legacy Campus. My name is Nandana Vivek and I'm the co-president of Douglas County Student Advisory Group and one of your hosts for this evening. Joining me as part of our student facilitation panel are Jake Oliver, our other side co-president, Aditya, who's one of our officers, and then Abby, who's our other officers. I want to thank the candidates for their time this evening, and I would also like to thank those of you in attendance who are engaging in the important process of electing these candidates to the Douglas County Board of Education. We want to ask that the attendees respect our process, the students, and the candidates, and we'll ask them questions this evening, and the candidates will have time to respond to each of those questions. We ask that our attendees please don't interrupt, as we want everyone to have ample time to respond to each question. Our format for this evening will include short introductions from the candidates, followed by a series of questions that have been prepared by our officers based off our feedback questionnaire form. Each question will be read by one of our student moderators, and each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. We will provide a warning at the 90-second mark, and each candidate will be given 15 seconds to conclude their response. They may yield their response time if they are so inclined. Once all 6 candidates have provided their answer, we will move on to the next question and repeat the process until we reach the end of our time. After our question-answer portion, each candidate will have time for a closing statement before we move on to our meet and greet outside. Once again, thank you for being with us this evening, and we will now begin the formal portion of our Board of Education Candidate Forum. We will now begin with an opening statement from each candidate, and they will each have 1 minute, and then be given an invitation at the 15-second remaining mark. And so starting off, we have Mr. Andy Jones from District A.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. SAG, thank you for having this tonight. My name is Andy Jones, and I'm running for one of the most important elected positions in our nation. The future of our children and our schools are at stake. A quick story. I recently, years ago, retired after 30 years of serving in the military, and I looked around to the room, and there's my family in the front row and my friends who I had served with in the back, and I said to them, I'm going to miss you guys the most because this is an itch that you cannot scratch with PTO moms and dads back home. But boy, was I wrong. As I started to get involved in the school district, serving in many different capacities, I realized that the parents, the teachers, the staff, the community is just as engaged in the success of our kids as are military members serving their country. What you're wanting to hear from me is an understanding that I acknowledge the issues and will do my utmost to address them as a single member of the district board, with the seriousness, compassion, and humbled sense of servanthood that demonstrates the entire community that I have been interest of students at heart. I will now attempt to answer some of the most important questions of the election that the Student Advisory Group is going to present to us tonight, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Next up, we have Incumbent Director Susan Meek from District A.
Thank you so much for hosting this evening. Good evening. My name is Susan Meek. I have the honor and privilege of serving on the Douglas County School Board currently for the past nearly 4 years. My husband and I moved here to Douglas County 22 years ago, and we've raised both of our daughters. They attended K through 12 throughout our schools here in Douglas County. Serving as a board member, I know firsthand, both through formal board engagements and also as an individual board member, meeting with students in our schools, that not all students feel safe and welcome in our schools. And I mention that because if we truly care about safety and we truly care about mental health, these are areas that we really need to move the needle to ensure that each and every student in our school district feels safe and welcome. I am deeply passionate about the future of our school district and the 63,000 students that we serve. My name is Susan Meek, and I'm running for the District A seat. Thank you.
Up next, we have Mr. David DiCarlo, who wasn't able to attend tonight, but is from District C. And then Mr. Brad Geiger from District C.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. Fascinated tonight to hear what the students think are the biggest issues in our schools, because too often that's a voice that's not clearly listened to or appreciated. I'm a 20-year resident of Highlands Ranch, put 2 kids through the schools there, a 35-year lawyer in Douglas and Arapahoe counties. And for the last 9 years, I've been a volunteer and 3-time chairman of the Long Range Planning Committee. I've had the opportunity through hours of study and hours of work to learn about the issues in the district, to learn about the needs of our students, of our teachers, of our parents, and our community, to talk to people about how the direction of this school district should go. And I'm very glad to be here today to talk about how I can take that education, that training, and that information to the board to help us make good decisions that will address the local needs of our students, putting aside some of this national conflation and battle, and figure out what's best for us. Thank you.
Oh,
I want to thank the students for welcoming us all here. My name is Maria Sumnick, and I'm running for District F, Douglas County Schools. And why I am running. I am running because I love children. I've been involved in the lives of children since I was very young. And throughout my adult years, I was a coaching director for a very competitive coaching league, one of the largest in California. I've been involved in my children's lives. I have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. And a little bit about me. I am an immigrant from Colombia, South America. And I came here not speaking a word of English, and this country has given me so much. And that is the reason I'm giving back. I'm giving back because I believe that it's time, we're at a precipice in time where we need to step up, all of those who have gotten so much out of this great country, and to give back. I have an extensive, okay.
Alrighty, up next we have from District F, Miss Valerie Thompson.
Hi, thank you again for hosting us tonight, and thank you all for being here. My name's Valerie Thompson, and I'm running in District F. I'm a mom with 2 young kiddos in one of our neighborhood Douglas County School District schools. I've been an active volunteer since moving to Douglas County at the schools. That's looked like volunteering at events, serving on the PTO, and at the district level, I've served on board committees such as the District Accountability Committee and the Mill Bond Exploratory Committee, where we were really charged with understanding things like the funding needs of the district, the budget, parent engagement, among other things, and provide recommendations to the Board of Education. My background, I have a master's in health education. I'm working on my PhD in behavioral psychology. My focus area is community health and development. And my areas that I work in are with children and families in important initiatives like youth violence prevention and early childhood literacy. I won't be able to hit all my priorities, but I do want to specify that centering students in decision-making, promoting safe, equitable, and enriching schools, as well as supporting our teachers and staff through budget and resource allocation that addresses our important issues like pay structure, teacher retention, professional development, and more. Thank you.
We have Mr. Andy Jones giving Mr. Incumbent Dr. Jason Page's opening statement.
Thank you. I think we'll be pleased that you upgraded him to doctor. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible if my time can start now. Hello students, my name is Jason Page and I'm currently on the DCSD school board and running to stay as the representative from District C. Thank you for taking the time to host this forum and apologies for not being able to be there in person as I'm supporting my daughter and her fellow students at their first choir concert. I was appointed to the school board in June and have learned a lot concerning how the board functions and its role leading our amazing school district. I was previously on the board of directors for District Charter School and spent 2 years with DCSD Long Range Planning Committee. My ultimate goal in being on the Douglas County School Board is to make our school district the best in the nation. The best for you, the students, with programs that allow you to reach your individual potential no matter what path you take, whether it be college, a trade, or other immediate career, the military, or for some, just the ability to live independently. The best for our teachers and staff with salaries that match the awesome culture we have here. The best for our parents as we continue to honor the role that your lives as a primary teacher, provider, and guide. And the best for our community as we stay ranked as one of the best places to live and work as a result of our amazing school districts. And I'm going to wrap it up by saying that, again, my name is Jason Page. His name is Jason Page. He's running for the Douglas County School District Director for District C.
All right, well, thank you all to all the candidates for giving their opening statements. We will now be moving into the question portion of our candidate forum. So to start off, the first question is, in light of recent struggles in the United States with gun violence in schools, what steps will you take to prevent such incidents from occurring in DCSD schools? And please let me know if you would like me to repeat the question.
And if you would, please repeat the question.
The question was, in light of recent struggles in the United States with gun violence in schools, what steps will you take to prevent such incidents from occurring in DCSD schools?
Okay, thank you for that question. Embedded in this question is the impossible task of parents feeling that our kids are safe unless they're wrapped in our arms in the secure four walls of our home. If my daughter goes to the mall with friends as a dad, I worry about her safety. We will never feel that you are completely safe. I support armed professionals in every school. Right now we have SROs in all of our middle and high schools, but not in every elementary school. I have very specific recommendations that come from years of experience in both non-combat military and post-9/11 airline operations. I have over 18 years of complex exercise creation, planning, execution, and evaluation experience from the military. Exercising our very complex pre- and post-event plans are critical to find the gaps and seams in our school safety plan. We must do more to collaborate with our first responder teams, our security staff, and industry experts. In addition, we must continue to work with our SRO teams and local jurisdictions to ensure that children with invisible disabilities or on an IEP and 504 plans are known to them and their specific conditions are accounted for during any incident. Finally, we will not reveal specific plans to the general public. I understand that. I think we all do. But I support a layered, comprehensive plan developed by industry-leading security professionals such as Director Grusing. And I will work very hard with our local leaders and state legislators to pay for the increased security staffing.
Great. I mentioned safety and security in my opening statement, so I'm going to go back to why I believe, one of the top priorities really needs to be ensuring that every child feels safe and welcome in our schools. So as part of the school board, I was able to help usher in the educational equity policy that was put in place, which really emphasized making sure that every student was safe and valued and welcome in our school. That means no students would be shamed or blamed or made to feel inadequate. So that policy really was meant to help advance our district based on feedback that we've received from the community. So fostering that safe and trusting school climate is absolutely essential. Our district has gone a long way in creating a safety committee as well, which meets monthly to look at safety, to ensure that our schools have the facility and enhancements in place. So school safety experts recommend that schools implement both access control measures, such as single access points, external door locks, internal door locks, all of these. That safety committee is always looking at those facility requirements in our schools and ensuring that they're in place. And lastly, I think I just want to hit on the mental health aspect. Ensuring that students have the supports that they need is a critical element to ensuring safety and security in our schools.
Let's be honest, the scary part is that most of our gun violence comes from inside the building. There's good plans about what happens if there's a shooting. There are good plans on how to respond to that shooting. We have to have excellent risk identification. We We have to be able to identify the people in our schools who are feeling left out, who are feeling dangerous, the ones who are making a plan, even if they don't intend to carry it out, and get them the help they need. I'm a member of the juvenile parole board. That means I see some of the most challenged kids in our state, kids who have been both victims of and committers of gun violence, both outside and inside schools. They need more services. They need more assistance. If we can get them to them first, then the SROs are there for protection, but we don't have to have them. Of course we need absolutely better coordination. We need to always look at our systems. But if we can figure out which of our kids are feeling that alienation, that isolation, that bullying, those who are not having their mental health issues treated, those who are not dealing with their emotional issues, then we can reduce the danger of anything happening in our schools. It's easy to talk about outside security. Inside security is the part we have to focus on.
Security is a layered approach to the wellness of whatever you're trying to secure. How do I know this? Because I am the co-founder of a physical security company who specializes in designing, implementing, maintaining security systems for some of California's largest school districts. So security, again, you start with the mental health of the children. The children need to feel safe, okay? First, you gather information and you assess each individual facility. A K through 5th is different from a high school environment. You work with law enforcement, you work with other industry professionals, including the professional that the school district has. And you put together a comprehensive plan, not only for securing the environment, securing the children, but during an incident, the protocols that are followed by law enforcement, by the teachers, by the school, to ensure the safety if there is an active shooter scenario. And these need to be practiced, and this is a protocol that is part of a policy writing that needs to happen so everyone involved knows exactly what to do. So I bring that wealth of information, or that wealth of
15
knowledge
seconds remaining.
to the county, so thank you.
So far, we've heard a lot about how complex this issue is and how solutions are comprehensive. We've heard great points by Susan and Brad about mental health and the value of our safety council and the value of security upgrades. As someone who works in youth violence prevention, I work with youth that are at high risk for violence, that are actively experiencing trauma. And I agree with all of these sentiments about this comprehensive approach. But one area I want to highlight tonight is the importance of the student voice. We do focus groups with these students, and I'm going to try not to get emotional because it's a hard topic. We learn a lot by sitting with the students that are experiencing these environments and what those risks actually look like, what's working for them. Really building that community connectedness so they feel that this is a safe place, that the school is a safe place to communicate and to seek out resources and help. So again, it's a comprehensive problem. It requires, comprehensive solutions and engagement with our students, and promoting mental health of our students is the solution here.
Awesome, thank you for those amazing answers. We have our second question, which is DCSD continuously struggles with substance abuse and illegal substances, including but not limited to vapes and marijuana products. What policies, initiatives, and other steps would you use to combat this problem?
Go ahead and say what it is. So I'm father of 3 kids who all came up through Douglas County School District. All of them are now young adults, 21, 25, and 27. Each of them experienced at Mountain Vista High School and in the high schools here in Douglas County the abundance of access to drugs. But not just that. It's the very permissive environment that Colorado has fostered, where, as some of us were growing up, we were told drugs are bad, drugs are bad, drugs are bad, and yet now adults are saying drugs are okay. And of course that's going to cause a proliferation of whether it's abuse of drugs or alcohol or vaping, things that will do harm to their bodies. And so there is no way that we can encompass the entire or every child to try to get to them. That's quite honestly it's such a huge job that we do hire professionals within the district, and we bring in outside law enforcement and others, but hopefully we're getting to the kids, the youth that are falling under the care of the school district for 8 hours of a day. This is a tough question. It's one where even my own kids said, "Oh, Dad, everybody's doing it." We can't be frozen into inaction when that is the case. We still have to have the strong messaging to our youth that say, this is not good for you, for your future, for your health. We have to have programs that make sure that it does not enter our school buildings, and wraparound supports that help kids who are dealing with addiction. This is a tough problem.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think it's really important to remind ourselves you're electing board directors, and our primary job is really governing the district, which means that we have a grasp of what the level of abuse looks like and those kinds of elements. So something that we have done on the board recently over the past 3 years was reinstitute monitoring reports. And one of those looks at the climate and culture within our schools. And in order to really understand the problem, we need to really ask students to weigh in. And so there's a survey called the Colorado Healthy Kids Survey, which asks very direct questions in this area. And what we have learned from that survey is that there are significant disparities in suicidal indicators between different sets of students, and having a trusted adult for each student is one of the best prevention measures. A trusted adult that students can go to ask for help. And so that really does get back to the climate and culture piece. So I think it's essential that, one, we understand what the reality looks like in our schools. 2, we have counselor services and mental health services in place, and those are not limited. Students are able to go to counselors and ask for help when they need help. And finally, just ensuring that we have restorative practices in place to help students as they learn and as they make mistakes.
Well, I think we've learned, I hope, as a nation over the last 20 years, that this is a health problem, not a law enforcement problem. As much as I respect law enforcement in other areas, they haven't proven to be effective about dealing particularly with youth use of substances. I agree with Susan, of course, that this is mental health. I think we need to cooperate better with the newly formed Douglas County Mental Health and work with them about a lot of the issues that are harming our children. Substances are scary, and you hear about fentanyl and all of that, and a lot of what's gone on is incendiary. Politicians make a living out of being scared of drugs and locking people up, and that's never proven to be effective. I agree that our counselors have to have excellent training in how to deal with substance abuse and addressing whether or not the substance abuse is a cause of the problems or a symptom of the problems. Again, I've been in the room doing child protection law, doing juvenile parole work, understanding that oftentimes substance abuse is what people are doing to deal with other terrible issues in our lives. And if we can provide the mental health and the counseling, oftentimes we can then deal with the substance abuse that is also impacting their lives. A dual diagnosis is a terrible thing to deal with. Overall, do we need better facilities across the county? We need better facilities across the state. We can only deal with part of the issue. We can talk to our students about where it's an issue and where it's impacting the non-users. and how it's harming them. Prohibition is rarely going to work. Law enforcement plays a small role. Health is where we have to focus.
Substance abuse is closely tied to a child's self-esteem and also tied to filling a void that a child might have in their life and also just an innate curiosity of a young person when their peers are also doing that. And it's the, come on, why don't you try it? So there's two aspects to address to substance abuse. The one, of course, has to do with the mental health aspect of it, the self-esteem of a child, the child looking for, I want to say like an alternate reality to what they're living because they're living in some sort of pain. And that needs to be addressed, as well as an educational program that is in place to educate children to what drugs really do to your mind, how they can impact your future, how they impact your decisions that you make that could be detrimental to you and the path that you want to be on or are looking to be on. So again, it's a multi-layered problem, and it needs to be addressed as such. And there's obviously a lot of literature out there and a lot of programs. And I would look at, as a member, if elected, I would look into what is working and bring it into the school. Thank you.
So again, being the last person to go, a lot of great points have been brought up. Again, Susan and Brad, excellent job. Kind of just building on that just a little bit. When we're talking about access to mental health services in the school, this is also the importance of having it so early, having it accessible at the elementary age is so important because it's a preventative measure, having those supports early. But also, we talk about mental health services in the schools, and our counselors are charged with providing resources to families and to students outside of the schools, making sure those are appropriate resources, that they're helpful resources, getting feedback from students about our resources. I also will just take this opportunity to plug 988 since I have my minute. 988 is a great crisis hotline that, it doesn't matter if you're the one in crisis, or you're the one dealing with emotional challenges, or it's a peer, and you want help for your peer, and you just don't know how to go about it, and making sure that people are aware of those types of things. Yeah, and I think that's where we're at. I mean, I would also say accurate education on the actual dangers instead of perceived dangers, please.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question is, how will you as a board of director address the ongoing mental health crisis among students?
You want to switch, Valerie? Okay.
I'm happy to.
We'll actually be, every third question, we'll be switching the order to go reverse.
Okay, thanks. Please repeat the question.
How will you as a future board director address the ongoing mental health crisis among students?
This is actually something that hits very close to home for me. Mental health issues is something that, of course, as a dad, I am very aware of. All three of my children knew at least 2 to 3 kids who had committed suicide by the time they were 15 years old. That rocks not only their world, but the environment around each of us. It's an incredibly difficult issue to deal with because we as a school district only see a child 8 hours out of a day. We don't know what's happening the rest of that time, the rest of that day. We do think that we can address some things within the school environment, and that is putting up policy or a challenge, if you will, and then possibly looking at a policy to whatever the staff recommends around this and limiting its utilization, its use during instructional hours. I know my son told me his biology teacher at Mountain Vista said, when you come in, you put it in the box. If you don't put it in the box, you're marked absent that day. Now what that did was it took them out of the distractions of this, and it helped them to
15
focus
seconds remaining.
on the task at hand, the learning that was taking place. I do believe that this can help, especially in the hours that the kids are inside of our school buildings, to lessen some of the stress and some of the influence of social media while they're in the buildings.
So mental health is a top concern in our schools and also across our nation. And it's been an ongoing area of focus by the student advisory group, and there's this ongoing subcommittee. And when the board has met with students in formal and informal situations, they're continually bringing up that mental health concerns are a top issue. So unfortunately, there is much progress to be made in this area. When I visit with the schools, I hear about the bullying and homophobic slurs, and I hear that teachers are not feeling equipped to handle the responses to those at times. And unfortunately, the most concerning is the recent rollback to the parent education policy that allows misgendering of students, which again contributes to mental health concerns. So what I have done as a board director, again, is help to support the educational equity policy and advocated to retain it and keep it even after the newest board members were appointed. So we also have included language in the superintendent's evaluation to ensure that we have improvements in climate and culture of the district, including development of a systemic approach to support educators in responding to reports of bullying, racism, and
15
discrimination.
seconds remaining.
Development of reporting structures for students and development of metrics to evaluate growth on these initiatives. And the second item is creating and implementing professional development opportunities for educators. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Director Meek, not just for what you've done recently, but the 2018 bond and bill that she supported, that Director Ray supported, that I pushed for, included additional funding for counselors in our schools. I think that played a huge role in how we got through COVID. And I think the people who were involved in implementing that, the counselors that were hired, people who worked, they've done a great job. Mental health is so broad. It can be certainly as important as our children who suffer from serious mental health issues, depression, bipolar, oppositional defiant disorder, which is a classification I'm not happy about. But it also deals with the everyday stress issues that our children face, that there are times that they feel anxious, they feel overwhelmed, and they need to be able to approach people in the schools who are safe to talk about that. There's a stigma to mental health in many places. Certainly there are a lot of families who search for help. There are others who, because of culture or family, don't feel comfortable, particularly at home, talking about those problems. They're told to put it in a box and ignore it. Oftentimes the schools are the safe place to deal with that. And they can come there, and we need to make it clear that that exists, so that even if it's not a safe place at home, they have one place they can go to, a place they can talk to, a place that they can feel like their anxiety, their depression, their concerns are dealt with realistically. Our students know that the mental health is an issue. They know who may need help. We need to help tap into
15
that.
seconds remaining.
There is a lot of work we can do to build a culture where addressing your own problems is something that's accepted, not stigmatized.
Well, this is really close to my heart. Being a victim of extreme bullying when I was in junior high. My best friend was gay. Imagine this was the late 70s and into the early 80s, and none of the programs existed back then. So I would look at my experience and bring into policies that support the types of programs where a child feels comfortable coming to, I'm almost going to cry because it brings back memories, coming to not only, it's a student group that needs to be formed, a teacher group, and all the individuals that are involved in the district we have to come together and put an environment that a child feels safe going to and saying, this is happening to me, and I need help. Programs like this, especially among peers, is very important because most of the time a child will go to a peer first and say, hey, so-and-so is doing this to me, and there's strength in numbers, and
15 seconds remaining.
and so like I said, this is so dear to me. I would definitely look at the current policy and address and work towards making it a safe and secure environment for all children.
All right. So as was mentioned, right, this is an area of continued need and growth for our district with great strides that have happened, right, with the funding and additional mental health services that have been provided. So the next steps look at identifying what's hindering these types of mental health supports in our schools. And just to touch on the importance of mental health, right, schools are social places and learning is a social process. Students learn in collaboration with teachers, peers, and family. And we know that prosocial behavior is predictive of performance on standardized testing. And we know on the flip side of that, that antisocial conduct co-occurs with poor academic performance. So what does this look like in the role of the board member? And Susan brought up this point earlier about the role when it comes to policy. And this means writing policies that don't put up blockades to accessing mental health services in our schools. Or not writing policies that call out specific student groups and allow for harmful things to happen.
Alrighty, so now we will be switching the order. So Ms. Valerie Thompson will be starting and we'll be going down for the next 3 questions, and we'll be switching every 3 questions. Now I have our officer, student advisory group, Aditya Sandhukumar, and he will be taking over with the questions.
So the next question is, what is your position on the Mill Levy What is your position on the Mill Levy Override taking place this election? If you were in favor, how do you think the money earned should be allocated? If you were not in favor, how can DCSD attain necessary funding to address teacher pay and capital needs?
Thank you. Like an easy one when it starts with me. I'm happy to talk about the Mill Levy Override. So this one specifically looks at increasing pay for teachers and staff. The board has done an excellent job with being transparent, and the district with being transparent exactly how these funds are spent. So we know that there'll be an increase of 9% for teachers and 6% for staff. And this is absolutely necessary. We know we're not competing with neighboring districts. We know we're hemorrhaging staff at a 23.2% turnover rate currently in our district. And right, so one of the ways that we can address this is by increasing pay, by passing this Mill Levy Override, and to be frank, it doesn't stop here. This is just a step in the right direction for us. Thank you.
I absolutely approve the Mill Levy Override bond. Our teachers are the front line of our children's future. If we don't show them that we appreciate what they're doing for our kids, then we're missing the mark, big time. So we need to be able to increase the teacher salary so we stop losing our great teachers to adjacent school districts who are paying them anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 more, and all they have to do is drive 15 minutes more. So that's got to stop, because if we want quality education in Douglas County, we need to be able to also pay our teachers and our staff what they deserve to be paid, as well as school bus routes. I believe we're on rolling bus blackouts, right? We need to be able to hire bus drivers as well that to cover all the routes. The school district right now has put a Band-Aid over 17 years. I think they passed one mill levy, and that really needs to be addressed in
15 seconds remaining.
that really just needs to be addressed. We need to pay the teachers and we need to pay the staff what they're worth. Thank you.
When I last looked at the district website, we had 54 openings for education assistants. For those of you who don't know, these are the people who take care of our disabled students, who provide them the assistance they need to get an education. The reason we have 54 openings is we pay them $1 less than the starting wage at Quiznos. Now, I like a good sub sandwich, but I think our disabled students are worth more than that.
That's right.
I understand the pay, they've done a good job of that. Let me talk to you about the bond, which I started talking about in 2015. We have 101 buildings. They don't heal, folks. We, except with the exception of 2018, have not allocated sufficient funds to maintain those buildings. Building controls are failing. Building heating and cooling is failing. We have to put money back into our schools or they will not continue to work. This is basic. This is building ownership 101. We also need to build some new schools. We have deserts for schools in Sterling Ranch. They're building 13,000 units in Sterling Ranch. We have one elementary school. In the canyons, south between Castle Rock and Parker, we have a desert. In Crystal Valley, the south end of Castle Rock, we have schools where we're educating kids in trailers, and I can tell you, none of the students here thought the trailers that they went to school were the best place to learn. We absolutely, positively have to invest in our school district. We have to do it continuously. I was proud to support it in 2018. I was proud to support it in 2022. And now I'm proud to support it in 2023. Vote yes on 5A and B.
So I agree with everything that's been said so far. I especially appreciate Brad's definition around the bond and explaining the bond. I think sometimes people don't understand that as much. As a school board director twice now, I have voted to place 5A and 5B on the ballot, and polling has shown that our community does understand that there is a need, and so polling has informed that decision. This booklet is available on the district website. It provides every detail to how the dollars will be spent and allocated. I think it's really important also to point out that Colorado is the least competitive pay for teachers in the nation. We offer the least competitive pay in the nation. And we struggle to compete with our neighboring districts. So it is a real problem. And as a board member, passing 5A and 5B is a critical short-term step. But we as board members really need to be focused on the long-term horizon and really tackle this problem and be cognizant and active at the state level. And lastly, I just want to emphasize we must pass both 5A and 5B. If the bond does not pass, money will be taken out of the operating budget to pay for those critical safety upkeep measures that need to be made. So you need to pass both, and it's a relatively modest ask. On a home value of $1 million, it's $200 for that year. Thank you.
I have to check my pulse for a quick second. Today we should be celebrating a year of increased teachers' pay due to the passage of the Mill Levy Override and the bond last year in 2022, but instead the district is at a crisis point when it comes to competitive pay for our staff. It's obvious by my actions that I prioritize what is right for our school district instead of politics. Unlike my opponent, I knocked on hundreds of doors last year and attempted to get support among conservatives in this county. That was no easy task. My opponent did not canvass last year, and I never saw her sign up to get out the vote. And unlike my opponent, I didn't play politics with the future of our school district. I unequivocally gave my support for 5A and 5B this and last year, and consequently lost the support of my own party leadership because of it. When a bully pulpit is used to sow division in the county, it makes it difficult for the community to trust what is happening. If my opponent had just leaned into the campaign just a little bit, maybe we would have gotten that under 1% over the finish line. The pro-public education side of the county, led by Susan, absolutely drove up the negatives for last year's campaign. And they played politics with teachers' income, and so that the majority board would not succeed.
15-second warning.
The president of the union last year lost his job because of this. Maybe we should consider if Susan should lose her position as well.
All right, the next question is, how do you plan to work against the rising school bus problems, causing students to be left without buses for intermittent periods of time due to lack of bus drivers?
All right, thank you for that question. I do want to just provide a note of decorum that was expected of us during this, so I'm not going to respond to the attack that just happened to one of the candidates out here. More than that, when it comes to bus drivers, we know that the MLO, right, the passage of the MLO will help increase pay for our bus drivers to make us a little bit more competitive, right? When it comes to bus drivers, we're competing with neighborhood districts bus drivers, and we're also just competing in general with drivers and with licensing. The board's role, really, in my opinion, is to provide and allocate the appropriate resources to allow our transportation department to do their job, and they're doing a great job. They have tried to come up with very proactive solutions in a very difficult time, making very difficult decisions such as every 5th week, not having a bus route just so people can plan instead of having last-minute cancellations. It's not a great solution, but when you don't have many options on the table, I think that that was very creative. We know that when the 2018 MLO bond passed, that, and I'm sure Susan can speak on this way better than I can, but they created a new busing system with the tags so they could better understand how the buses are being used in different areas, so they could be much more proactive in how they plan busing routes and address those types of shortages and issues. So again, I think the board's role really here is a continued support of resources and that open dialogue with our transportation department and with our drivers, working collaboratively with them.
This is why it's so important that we pass 5A and 5B for not only the teachers, but the entire operational well-being of the school district. The school district is at a precipice in time where it could go one of two ways without this bond and without the Mill Levy Override. It will struggle if this doesn't pass. We will have to make cuts where we don't want to make cuts. And as it is, even if it does pass, it's really only a partial Band-Aid on a bigger problem that needs to be addressed. And it probably will be addressed in the following years as we will have to go back and ask for more funds. I am the product of a public school education. And I want the public school education to have the same to have the same opportunities I had growing up. I had to ride a bus, and our bus driver was great. They put up with a lot. You don't, unless you've either ridden on a bus as a child or you are a bus driver, you don't realize what those wonderful men and women who drive those buses. And I went to public school in California, so our bus drivers didn't have to put up with the snow and sleet and hail and everything of Colorado. But we need to support 5A and 5B so we can do something about this.
Again, this is a competition problem. It's not just a problem with bus drivers, it's a problem with our mechanics. We've got times that we can't open our mechanic shops because you have to have 2 licensed mechanics, and we don't pay them enough. So yeah, 5A is part of the solution. 5B is part of the solution because we build schools in deserts, we need fewer buses. There are things we can do. We can modernize our transportation process. We can modernize our schedule. We also have to take very careful looks at which bus routes we are not going to put on the rotation. Because I was told by a teacher at a prosperous school that on the weeks that they don't have busing, they've got at least 4 kids who just don't come. This has to get fixed. We have to do it with funding. We have to do it with better planning. We have to do it with more investment in our system and how we work better. And by the way, I want to thank the students because they made it very clear that we were not supposed to use our time to attack others. And I appreciate those who followed the decorum rules.
So what a great question. I've really been troubled with the issue that we have with our transportation. It's a pretty complex problem. I can guarantee you that the transportation department has been focused on this, trying to figure it out. It's a nationwide problem. It's not just here, but it's exacerbated by our pay inequities. Like not being able to pay a competitive wage makes it even more challenging. So again, we need to pass 5A and 5B, but it's more than that. And you know, there's a book that I have read recently from Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game. I don't know if anyone's read it, but I would highly recommend it. It talks about an organization really needing to have 3 elements in place to maintain its competitiveness and to continue. Their employees need to feel safe. They need to be able to innovate together and collaborate. And so I think when you have really complex problems, we need to collaborate not only internally, but externally. And being connected to the larger statewide environment, education environment, is another way to really try to look to solve complex problems. 5A and 5B is a quick, it's going to help, but we're looking at longer term challenges that we need to solve. And I think you're looking for board members who are really focused on long term and not politics. Thank you.
Extremely complex issue. Obviously, everything that everyone has said up to this point is absolutely true. How do you get the message to the community that we must pass 5A, 5B, and we are down to under 30 days where we must do this? I believe our parents are ones that we're not hearing their voices as a community voice saying, if my child does not get a bus, and I see Les up there, if my child does not get a bus to school, it will affect how I get to work, or if I get to work, or if my child has to stay home by themselves on that day. Our parents must be engaged in this. It's certainly a luxury of many who can do carpool each day or bring their children to school, to and from, as many of us who were charter parents were able to do. But that's just not the reality for a lot of families. So it's a very complex issue, and I know we have great people on staff who are working through this. We've got to pass 5A, we've got to pass 5B. If we don't, we're back to the drawing board on November 8th on how we address this and so many other issues.
Before we move on to the next question, I'd just like to emphasize that this student-led forum is a time to engage with issues important to students and that personal attacks are not permitted. With that, we'll be moving on. With that, we'll be moving on to the next question. Do you believe the district is operating in an environmentally sustainable fashion? If not, how would you address this problem?
Oh my goodness, this is the first time that this question has been asked. So thank you for a new question and unique one. It's such a thoughtful one. We can always work to improve on our sustainability. I think that you know, yes, there's some built-in advances because technology, right, the less need for paper and things like that, but making sure that we're putting efforts into meaningful recycling, but we know that only goes so far, you know, so you're thinking about, gosh, I think about first and foremost, like when we're thinking about where we order our food from, or where, or the type of packaging that the things that we order are coming in. Are we being thoughtful about those types of things? I think this is something that we should put more effort into, having these types of conversations, really talking across the board with everybody about it. This is about how the district is run, but I think that the board's role is bringing up these conversations, asking about this. You know, when we talk about we want to see the data on performance, we want to see the data on a lot of different areas, teacher performance, student performance, et cetera. This is an area we could ask for information on, or what are our efforts as a district to be more green? So thank you for this question. Thank you for making me think about it. I'm walking away and I'm going to research this one more, so I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much for asking this question, because now I can say a little bit about my background. I was the urban technology architect for the city of New York, responsible for the cybersecurity posture of all Internet of Things being procured by the city, including America's largest school district, the New York City Board of Education. And one of the projects I worked on was transitioning some of the older schools from electrical usage to solar, and bringing in that technology, procuring it, making sure that that technology was secure and resilient, because we all know, if you've watched the news in the last week or so, New York's just been hit by a lot of storms lately. So creating a sustainable environment is paramount to actually saving money. You want to know saving, of course there's going to be an upfront cost for the technology, but over the long run, switching to more sustainable energy sources is a great path for any school district, and I would highly recommend the school district look at some of these alternative energy uses. And I can bring that to the table, having worked on a rather large project and having the experience and written the policies for the city of New York regarding the procurement of that technology.
Well, the good news is we're a lot better than we were 9 years ago. And I know this because it's something the Long Range Planning Committee that I'm on is talking about. We've got solar panels on Northridge Elementary. Every time that we replace a heating and cooling system after the 2018 bond, we looked at making it more efficient, reducing energy, increasing energy efficiency. If we pass 5B, and yeah, I'm going to talk about 5B again, when we build new schools, when we expand two new middle schools, we have to be very aware that those have to be up to the most recent standards for energy conservation, for energy generation. We have an ability to lead. We spend that money in Fund 5B well, if we spend it intelligently, we can continue to be an example to the rest of the county about how you build new energy-efficient buildings that will lead us on to the future. When we renovate our schools, we have to think about that as well. Insulation is in there. New controls are in there. All of that contributes to a better, sustainable district. But it has to be a priority. It has to be a priority, as Valerie said, on acquisition. It has to be a priority on transportation. It has to be a priority on everything we do, because it makes everything work better.
I think I'll elaborate a little bit more on Brad's, it has to be a priority. That's a reason one of the priorities that I talk about a lot is a stable teaching and learning environment. In order to provide and keep your eye on something as important as this, you have to have stability. So when I worked in the district over, 10 years ago or so, I received a grant for an electric vehicle car programming, for CTE programming. We received grants to put in lots of career tech ed programming, but we lost that due to instability in the district. And so that is one reason I talk a lot about the need for stability. the school accountability group actually has a subcommittee on this topic, and I think it was January where we had a presentation with lights, replacing lights with LEDs, looking at energy savings, looking at also planting trees and various different environmental sustainability efforts. I think we need to lean into our youth. We need to lean in and have them help us drive those efforts. But the only way those efforts work is if we can really sustain them and we can keep moving forward and making advancements. And so I just want to thank the SAG for all of their work in this area. I know it's an area of emphasis and priority that has existed in that committee.
Second warning.
We're in the role we are with being a school board director to help create a future for our students, and we need to work very closely with them in defining that.
This has been something that our students have been tackling for a long time. When I was on the board at Flat River Academy, I know that this was one of our big initiatives, and our children were taking it very seriously. In a tour that I did of an amazing little magic spot in Douglas County called Sedalia Elementary, I witnessed how in the morning the children were taking care of putting paper, putting plastic, putting metal things in the appropriate places. So even at that elementary age, they were learning the appropriate lessons around creating sustainability. But for just a quick second, I'm on the Highlands Ranch Metro District Board, and we serve hand in hand with Centennial Water District. And I don't know if anybody is just really enjoying these beautiful blue sky days we've had, but if you also noticed, we haven't had much moisture. We haven't had much rain in the last few weeks. And so we live in a semi-arid climate, I should say, and we should be partnering with the organizations like the Highlands Ranch Metro District that is taking plots of land throughout Highlands Ranch in collaboration with Centennial Water District and cutting our water usage by over 30%. We should be doing that at our schools as well. With around 110 buildings, that's a lot of watering that's going on. And this would be a focus area that I would say, because I agree with you. If the board is making this a priority, then the district will make it a priority. And I believe water sustainability is an effort that we as an entire community can wrap our arms around.
All right, the next question is, what are your thoughts on how DCSD currently maintains teacher performance? What changes would you make, or would you leave it the same?
And this one's me, that's right?
Yes.
Several years ago, from 2017 to 2020, I served on the District Accountability Committee. 2 of those years, I was the vice chair. And that was one of our focus areas. That was one of the areas that we looked at each year. And in collaboration with our teachers on the committee, with our principals on the committee, it's one of the things that we would look at each year on behalf of the board as one of our specified tasks. It's an ongoing, it's a never-ending process where you're taking input from academic leaders, current trends, the Colorado Department of Education standards, and you're looking at how our teachers are doing the delivery of educational material to the kids. And there is a fairly complex formula, and again, with not just the input of the DAC, but with the input of staff, we as a board would look at how we measure our teacher performance. And it's just a constant feedback loop. And I just would continue to encourage that.
So how to maintain teacher performance. Well, I'll just start off with saying that I think one of our strengths right now in our district is our academic excellence. Our test scores have met and exceeded pre-pandemic test scores, and that's not just overall test scores, that's among student subgroups as well. So I think we always want to not just maintain, but improve, right, our teacher performance. But there is a concern that 23% of staff turnover is happening right now. And so I think we need to think really deeply as a board, what measures are in place to ensure that we can maintain and continue improving teacher performance. I think the best way to really work on that is to ensure that we have teacher voice helping to inform our thinking. I think our public schools thrive when we have student voice, teacher voice, parent voice, and our community voice. Everyone has rights. Everyone is committed to the success of our organization. And I think first and foremost, we really need to work with the teacher voice to understand what the needs are to help overcome some of those turnover rates that have been rising, unfortunately, in recent years. And so I will end with that.
We have good teachers. We have, unfortunately, too many young teachers because our current pay system doesn't allow us to maintain the more experienced teachers. Those are the ones that are leaving us. Most of the ones who are not stepping up to lead our buildings, which is concerning. But pay is the start of respect for teachers, not the end. I agree that feedback has to be realistic. It has to be built into the system. We cannot make policies about, say, parent engagement that we write on Friday and approve on Tuesday without realistic viewpoints of what the teachers think parent engagement should be. We have to ask our students who are good teachers and what are they doing and what we can do to replicate that. Understanding that students are going to have a little different viewpoint than a principal might, but that role has to be played as well. We have to tell our teachers, our good teachers, that this is the place you can stay and learn. We have to tell even the teachers that are struggling that this is the place that you will stay, you will get support, and we will give you the best training to learn how to deal with issues in 2023. We have to tell them that yes, there are many issues, including drugs in the schools and use of cell phones, but we have such a great student population. We are so blessed and so privileged. They have a good student population, involved teachers, involved parents, and then if we can put those people together, then every teacher can get better within that environment. And that means every kid will get better within the same environment.
Teachers are the front line of our children's education, and providing them adequate training to advance their skill sets in teaching methodologies is paramount for them to grow into their fields of expertise. So I would work with the school and the superintendent and the teachers' voices, so teachers are going through a continuous learning program so they can hone their skills and provide new and unique teaching methodologies that can help the students, as well as some of the best judges of a teacher's performance are the students. So a student's voice is also very crucial in getting their feedback and having the teacher, it's called a 360 review. If any of you have ever been a part of that in a corporation where you review your boss. Same thing, same idea, but it's done in a productive environment, in a positive feedback loop environment, and not in a negative environment. But training teachers and continuous training of teachers needs to happen and needs to be a priority in this school district and every school district across America.
15-second warning.
So, thank you.
Okay, so when you talk about maintaining teacher performance, the behaviorist in me, I can't help but think of this in a very specific way. So if we want to maintain a certain behavior, that includes continual skill building, feedback process, and then reinforcement to encourage behavior to continue. So if I think about skill building, everybody here mentioned, right, professional development and trainings, and thinking a little bit deeper, right, continuing to build pathways for teachers to specialize and grow in their specific areas of interest, so they have a choice in how they want to develop professionally. When I'm thinking about feedback opportunities, Andy mentioned earlier the role on the District Accountability Committee, how we review and approve rubrics for teachers, right, it's a professional development tool. But through that process, there are still a lot of challenges. There's challenges for those rubrics to be implemented in a way that is meaningful. The rubrics are fantastic. If you haven't seen our teacher rubrics or staff rubrics, they're amazing.
Yeah.
But how do we implement those in a way that they actually are a great tool for professional development? What type of resources do we need to give building administrators so they can implement those in a meaningful way? And then finally, when we talk about reinforcement, celebrating our teachers. So I do want to give a plug for the Apple Awards. It didn't get mentioned earlier. That Susan helped start in our district. And the submissions are open right now through, I think it's like November 11th or 12th. So, right, that's all of our role as community members, as parents. Talk to your kids. Is there a teacher that they want to celebrate and make a submission for?
15 seconds.
Thanks.
The next question is, do you believe breakfast and lunches provided by DCSD are of sufficient nutritional value to support maximal growth and success of students? Do you believe healthier meals at school can help combat rising obesity rates? What plans do you have to provide healthier meals at DCSD schools?
Kind of like what Valerie said earlier, what a great question that we have not heard up to this point. And, both as a dad and someone who aspires to serve on the board, this is an important issue for us. But how many of you have served in the lunchroom when your kids are at school? Many times. Over 16 years at Flat River Academy, the number of lunch duties that I did, I don't even have the number in my head, but what I witnessed each and every day on whether or not it was a healthy meal provided by the parents in a sack lunch or something that we, the school, provided to them that they could purchase through the week. The amount of food waste that I witnessed in an elementary and middle school, K through 8 school, was staggering. And we can have the best programs, and we can feed them nothing but broccoli and cauliflower, and the result would be the same. The children are just not going to eat those things. And so, as a parent, how many of us gave our children snacks or small meals through the day? That's something we should look at. And it's literally just giving them the calories sometimes to make it through the afternoon is what we're trying to do with a lunch or in a breakfast to get them through the morning. So I would say smaller, healthier snacks throughout the day is a way that we might be able to address this. But I'd love to give it some more thought.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really interesting question that I honestly have not thought about. I thought more about the importance of food security, for students, but not about the actual nutritional food that we're serving in our schools today. As a board director, we have had engagement opportunities with students and we visit schools, and honestly, I have not had this question posed in the past. And I'm really interested in learning more and understanding more about it. And I hesitate to weigh in too much until I actually do that listening and research.
One of the more interesting meetings I had on long-range planning committee is we actually went to the nutrition services building, and talked to them and watched how we acquire stuff. And folks, there's a whole lot going out there that you don't understand for a meal to end up in your kid's school. It's fascinating. We have to continually evaluate how we're providing nutrition. First of all, I agree with Susan. We're very fortunate that we are able to provide sufficient calories to most of our students. But evaluating what is needed and getting a feedback process about what is healthy and what is not, and working with those issues, as well as more education about nutrition and what we're serving and how it's good for you. I know nobody wants to be lectured to eat your vegetables, but I think there is room for us to at least continue to evaluate that. But I'm fascinated by the question, and I'm fascinated about how much I can learn about it. Thank you.
I ditto that on being a great question. Nutrition is very fundamental to a child's growing body and learning experience. So this is such a multifaceted question, and I'm only going to go through experience, I assume it hasn't changed too much, but I never ate school lunches. They scared me, so I would bring my own. But from the research I have done on what's being served and the nutritional value it's actually offering students is very minimal. And that really does need to be looked at. And this is at a national, I've only seen national data on this, not local Douglas County data. I mean, I'd like to ask all the students here by a raise of hand, how many of you like what's being served in your cafeterias and would eat it regularly? Hands up, anybody?
Les, you're not a student.
No, well, that says a lot. So on that note, I would probably look and do some more research on nutritional value, nutritional menus that enhance your knowledge, your brain power, because good food, you are what you eat.
All right, so I will be the fifth person to thank you for this question. So I think Susan brought up a great point about, first and foremost, is access to food, right, is always should be our priority. And right, that is something that is being, I think, well addressed at this point. And then Brad talked about education about healthy eating, of course, right? And that's included in our curriculums at schools. Another area, behaviorist to me is always like, well, how do you increase healthy eating? Well, first you have to prompt for it. So signage always helps with prompting. I think very practical about these solutions, not necessarily the role of the board member, except for having these conversations. Again, we talked about prioritizing, thinking through, problem solving, collaborating with people. We know there's food guidelines that we have to follow as a district with the foods that we offer. So seeing, are we just following the guidelines? Is there somewhere we can improve in that area? I do know the question was asked about liking the food in the schools, and I've heard from countless teachers and staff about how amazing the salads are and how they haven't had that many salads ever in their lives. They're eating salads every day for lunch. It's the healthiest they've ever been. So offering food, again, access to food, access to healthy food is a big component here. But then the other thought that comes to mind is, are we tracking healthy foods that are popular and increasing their availability? So if there are preferred foods and there are preferred meals that are coming out, maybe those are the foods that we should be prioritizing and thinking
15
about.
seconds remaining.
That's it.
All right, the next question is, do you believe the current Gifted and Talented program to be sufficient? If not, how will you address this problem to provide more value out of the program to GT students?
I have to spend just 15 seconds readdressing that last question because it just dawned on me that we are in a laboratory for our school district right here. We have a culinary services curriculum right here, and what a great opportunity for them to do some taste testing with kids from all the way from K all the way through 12 and seeing what really works and turning that on for them. Anyway, would you please, the question was around gifted and talented, I believe. We need to meet the needs of every child as best as we can, and if embedded in the question is are we doing a good enough job, or do we need to be doing more? You know, the gifted and talented students in our schools are looking to be challenged. And I just don't know enough about the curriculum that is provided to them that's giving them the opportunities to be able to satisfactorily answer this question. Although I believe I had gifted and talented children myself, my daughter straight A all the way from kindergarten through college, you know, she was always appropriately challenged throughout her whole experience here in Douglas County. My son, solid B student, my youngest daughter, a good AB student, but they were all appropriately challenged at their levels. And so I would have to actually find out more about where the shortcomings are, learn it from you, from the students, but also from our staff on where we can improve in the delivery of gifted and talented education programs.
So another tough question. Thank you for the question. The district actually has a superintendent committee. I think it's called DCP. It's the Gifted and Talented Committee, looking at how students are being served. I was actually able to access some of the programming for both of my daughters and was very happy with that programming. But we had to choice into another district school to access some of that programming. And I think we need to make sure there's equitable access to all students. We had the ability to get our children to that programming. And so I think as a board, it's really our job to ensure that every student has equitable access to that programming. And I think that committee that the district now has really is looking at that, looking at the percentage of students in different groups who are accessing the program. I did notice in the SAG presentation from a year ago, I think it was the diversity equity group, subgroup, had graphics showing that, you know, there's disproportionate numbers of students accessing the program. So I think there's more work to be done for sure. I think there's an awareness and that the board has set an end goal basically for equitable access to programming. And I think our recent move to really ensure accountability reports will allow us to ensure that that is happening. So I think there's a focus on it and we're moving towards that, and there's room for growth.
To build on what Susan has said, and more importantly, what Susan has done, equitable access both geographically and socioeconomically is absolutely vital. Too often we make very involved parents the equivalent of gifted and talented children. And those two things don't always work together. I also want to say that we need to do a continuing job evaluating twice exceptional kids. Kids who both suffer from, struggle with some sort of learning disability, and who have amazing gifts and talents. And that's a challenging group, and that's partially a training issue. We have to continually work at our elementary level to help identify those children, give them the appropriate resources to deal with their limitations, but also understand that they can contribute in an extraordinary way. And that it's not just the privileged kids, it's not just the kids who come across as smart in 5th grade who are going to be our leaders come high school time. So I think there's always room for better evaluation. I think there's always room for better training. And I agree with Susan, we have to make sure that it's available to all of the kids who can benefit from it.
Growing up, I had access to something called advanced placement courses. They're called AP courses. And my children also had access to that. As gifted and talented children should have a road path, a path to excel beyond their grade levels. And not only do these advanced placement courses excel them beyond their grade levels, they can also be used as college credit. And these college credits then will decrease the tuition amount that the children have to pay because the colleges recognizes these subjects as college level courses. one of the things I would do for gifted children in the school district is, especially at the high school level, is to reintroduce the advanced placement classes that are available. And they come in languages. There's advanced placement, French, Spanish, Mandarin, there's history, there's civics, there's mathematics, calculus, all that needs to be there and available for children if they if so desired. And many gifted and talented children actually look towards having classes like that to help them advance their learning experience.
Thank you. Do you mind restating the question? Because now I'm a little concerned I misheard it.
Sure. The question is, do you believe the current gifted and talented program to be sufficient? If not, how will you address this problem to provide more value out of the program to GT students?
Okay. So I did mishear, so I'm glad that I re-asked. So I like the points that were brought up about equity of access. So if we're thinking about equity, right, we know that there are systematic factors at play that cause disparities in our outcomes. And whenever we're looking at policy, that we are being thoughtful in considering how it looks for all student groups. And if we're using that in the forethought of how we use decision-making and how we think about things and how we ask problems and how we engage with stakeholders and how we select students on how the services are provided to them, then we can do a better job in this area. Thanks.
And Jake will be asking the next 3 questions to our candidates.
Oh, what's your name? Sorry.
All right, the next question is, how can LGBTQ plus students feel welcome in DCSD schools? This relates to school bathrooms, as almost all DCSD schools offer only 2 school bathroom options.
Thank you. It's actually a really big question. I think that we could talk about this for a long time in the 90 seconds. So first and foremost, we should have policies in place that support our LGBTQI students, not policies that are set out to harm them. I keep bringing this up because we did have a recent policy pass at the end of the school year last year in our parent engagement policy that does these things. And that's why it's a common topic for us tonight. Serving on the District Accountability Committee, it's a state statutory requirement that we're engaged with the development and the implementation and adoption of that policy. And we formed a subcommittee and we are fighting to remove that language because it is harmful to our students. When we're talking about inclusion, diversity inclusion, right, we're talking about making these types of considerations for our students so they have access to a safe and welcoming school environment that fits what their personalized needs are. I think that, when it comes to bathrooms or all of these other topics that are brought up, first and foremost, there are laws that already exist that are in place that are supposed to help protect. And so our job as the board is to align our policies with those laws and those protections. And then we have conversations with our students and how we can better serve them. I fully support our LGBTQI students. You should feel just as welcome as every other student group in our schools.
I support the LGBTQ and respect that they also need to be considered in decisions that the school board makes towards respecting their choices and accommodating their needs. While it's always a delicate balance between having facilities such as the restrooms be both amiable to non-LGBTQ students and as well as LGBTQ students. If some reasonable compromise can't be reached, then, you know, as far as the sharing of them, then separate facilities can be set aside to accommodate certain, at certain grade levels, you know, hopefully to satisfy all the various parties. It is a delicate question and a multi-layered solution. We need to look at really respecting not only the student, but parents as well in all this. And I would look at, as Valerie said, there are laws currently protecting
15 seconds.
things like that. And I, as someone who would be on the board, I would look at those laws and look at if there were any deficiencies and write policies to bridge that gap.
Question near and dear to my heart. I was at Pride Fest when the hate group showed up. I watched them literally scream at gay people and gay children. And children who were not gay, who were just there enjoying a good time. So, first of all, we have to try to insulate our schools from that hate. We have to avoid associating with or knowing groups who espouse that hate. We have to make it clear that they're not welcome in our schools. We have to renovate our schools anyway, and those have to be taken into account about what is safe and what is appropriate, where people feel okay. And adding a genderless bathroom is really not that big an invention. And allowing that is not that big an imposition on anybody. Honestly, we have to not have a board president who sits on the dais and says that he's okay with bullying trans kids. Everybody likes to say they respect it, but when you pass a policy that doesn't, you have to deal with what is the reality, not the words. Kids all get along. They really do. This idea that somehow there's this deep hostility in our school district towards trans kids, or that people are tremendously offended because they don't know whether to use he, she. That's not reality. That's your Aunt Gertrude's Facebook page. And we need to put it in there. We can be inclusive. It's not that hard.
I agree with everything Valerie and Brad just said. Again, I keep saying the same words because I think it's important that we ensure a safe and welcoming environment for all of our students. And it's all of our students. Our mission statement, our vision statement, they all talk about serving every student. And we can't separate certain students out. Here are some facts. LGBTQ youth are more likely to experience bullying and sexual violence, feel unsafe at school, report suicidal ideation and attempts, and engage in substance use. Significant disparities persist across gender identities and sexual orientation for respondents who reported having experienced thoughts of suicide. In 2021, this is from the Healthy Kids Colorado survey. LGBTQ school students are more likely to have thoughts of plan for and attempt suicide. High school youth who experience discrimination were more likely to experience suicidal despair. We say we care about addressing mental health, and we say we care about addressing suicide, and we say we care about all of these things, but it needs to be for all students, and it needs to be based on data and ensuring that we are serving every student. Every student deserves the right to be treated with dignity and referred to by their preferred name and pronouns. This is what is required by law.
15 seconds.
This is how it looks in the workplace, and it's just common respect and decency to treat fellow humans in this way.
Decorum statement goes both ways, Mr. Geiger, and I would respectfully request that you retract your statement against Director Peterson. That was not appropriate. HB 231057, amenities for all genders in public buildings. This is passed by this last legislature, and it is effective as of January 1st, 2024. And it states very specifically provide non-gendered restroom facilities or multi-stall non-gendered facilities on each floor where restrooms are available. Newly constructed buildings, whenever a restroom is accessible in public in a building in which a restroom is being renovated. Sure, all single-stall restrooms are non-gender specific restrooms. Allow for the use of multi-staff restrooms by any gender if certain facility features are met under the International Plumbing Code, Colorado Field, so on and so on. We are a school district that follows the law, and the law states what must be provided, and I don't see any black or white or gray in here. We follow the law, and that's exactly, I mean, the question was around use of the bathroom, so that's what the law is followed.
Right, moving on to the next question. How do you plan to utilize technology, including artificial intelligence tools, to assist in classrooms, and how will you prevent such tools from becoming detrimental to student learning or being used for academic dishonesty?
All right, thank you for this question. So I think this comes down to like the school and the teacher level on what they permit in their classroom. I can speak as the college instructor, right, where I have students that might use AI technology for assignments. I actually encourage it. It's important that we're able to use all type of technology tools that are out there, as long as we're transparent about what our resources are coming from. Yes, I know you can write to Chat AI to get a paper written for you, right? And you're harming yourself when you do that. You're not developing those necessary skills. And so I think you have to have first some buy-in from your students about why we have assignments the way we do, why we're building those skills, what it's going to equal out to, but then also how can we use the technology in a responsible and effective way so they can be prepared for the real world, right? Because that's ultimately what school's about, is being able to be prepared for the real world. And those tools are available outside of school.
So this question is right up my alley, and having worked with cybersecurity and AI. It's a double-edged sword, of course, technology is, and students in their use also need to know the upside and the downside. And as Valerie mentioned, that if they cut corners and use ChatGPT to write their essay paper, then they're not developing that skills. So the technology is here, and it's here to stay. So developing policies around that technology and its use is incredibly important in delivering a solid educational foundation in technology. Because when they get to college, and then when they get out in the real world, they're going to be using this technology and more to do their jobs, to graduate from college and whatever profession, or even if they decide to do the trades, that this AI is actually being implemented in all sorts of areas, in robotics, in even meal planning, right? For the catering department, AI is playing a part in, and will play a part as the technology advances over the next few years. So developing a good sound policy behind its use is critical in the continued learning path for our students.
I think this taps into a broader question. We worried about social media. We're worried about AI. We're worried about how the outside world impacts our kids. We're worried about some of the things they can find on their phones. We can't teach not to use those things. It's not possible. It's out there. What we have to do is continue to teach better and better ways, both of using them productively and creatively, but also to teach critical thinking, to understand. There was a lawyer recently who lost his license because he used ChatGPT to write his brief, and it made up stuff. Don't do that. You have to understand what real This goes back to understanding what a real source is. What are real facts? How do you use this vast, beautiful internet that we have to find out what is true and to avoid that which is myth, which is meme, which is made up. So we are not going to teach more and more stuff because you don't need to know stuff. I got stuff right here. We're going to teach how do you find it, how do you evaluate, how do you calculate it, how do you use it in a creative, smart way. We have to train our teachers how to do that because some of them are as old as I am and they're trying to figure it out. But they're smarter than I am, so they will.
I agree with Valerie and Brad. I mean, it really is about how do we teach effective and responsible use of the technology. And that's why I asked the superintendent to add it to her goals for the year, and it was just approved by the board, where one of her goals is just that. How do we create the policy and the practices for using AI? What I would just add, I mean, AI has some amazing opportunities to help open up learning to students that might have challenges with writing, to students that might have all different kinds of challenges when it comes to learning, and AI might be a phenomenal tool to help accommodate them in some of their learning challenges. And so I'm really excited to work with the students and to work with our parents and our community and our teachers and talk about what is the effective and responsible use of AI and how can we use it to help advance our district's mission.
Would you repeat the question, please? Yes. How do you plan to utilize technology, including artificial intelligence tools, to assist in classrooms? And how will you prevent such tools from becoming detrimental to student learning or being used for academic dishonesty?
Academic dishonesty is something that any and all of the service academies deal with. Any universities of higher learning that really put requirements on kids not only to make pledges not to lie, cheat, or steal, and I will not tolerate anybody who does. It's probably a lost art, but I fear for a lot of our kids who would come out of, and let's be honest here, most of us in this room are older, almost 61, and this kind of technology scares the ever-living jeeps out of me. It is an unknown territory when you have the growth of information that is exponential each and every year with each and every one of these. There are questions about AI in classrooms that have not even been fathomed yet. And I think that we need to absolutely wrap our arms around this. And it would be bringing in industry professionals, people that have tackled this issue in industry or in academia. I don't believe that right now anyone sitting at any of these 5 tables has the requisite knowledge or information. We can all postulate the good things that can come from this, but I fear some of the bad things, that if this is unregulated in our schools, and not just AI, but all of the technology that's coming to our schools, if it's not thoughtful, if it's not deployed in the proper way, we could be doing further harm to our kids, and that's what I fear.
Okay, and we're going to move into our last question before closing statements. The proper maintenance of school bathrooms has rapidly decreased in recent years as more bathrooms are being closed or are improperly sanitized and monitored. How can school bathrooms be maintained as sanitary and safe, including prevention or the prevention of illicit harmful activities in school bathrooms? Did everyone hear that?
Yes, thank you. So the second bathroom question. So that definitely is moving this up on my list of things to be thinking about and considering. Again, we talk about the passing of 5B, the bond, right? That's to help with maintenance of our buildings. We have to have the funds to be able to maintain them. Schools need individual funds in order to maintain them. When you talk about monitoring bathrooms, that isn't my area of expertise, so I definitely have to refer to other people about what's the most appropriate way to do that ensures privacy, but then also student safety. And I'm sure those are conversations that our Security and Safety Council have, especially since we've heard it twice, so I think it's getting brought up there. Having access to bathrooms though, right, that's just the basic thing that we should be having in our schools. I've heard about this when we served on the Millbach Exploratory Committee. I heard it from parents about the challenges with that. To me, it's kind of mind-blowing that it's an issue, and again, that's why we have to raise the money to have the appropriate resources to address it.
So this goes back to the school funding and maintenance and operations and the importance of passing 5B. Schools, bathrooms, restroom facilities are critical in a school environment and need to be in good working, clean conditions. And this goes to also the hiring of janitorial staff to maintain the bathrooms. And again, 5B will help with the operational costs of hiring more staff to keep those bathrooms clean and sanitized for use by the students and even teachers, although sometimes they have their own restrooms depending on the school. As far as addressing the security aspect of it, and it's interesting that you asked that question, having designed security systems for schools, and this always came up, how are we going to watch the bathrooms? We need a camera pointing into the bathroom, and and part of it was you can't point a camera directly into the bathroom because you'll see everything inside the bathroom. So addressing this from a security issue is also a privacy issue. And respectfully to the students, it's important that they know that they're not being monitored in their personal space. So.
Students are concerned about their day-to-day life. All of those big issues we talked about elsewhere, they just want their schools to work better. And I absolutely love that. And that's what we should be looking at. First of all, it's 5A that will pay our building engineers better. The MLO pays for the salaries, and building engineers, which are what we call the people who take care of our buildings, are part of that. Perhaps we can partner better with some outside resources. Wasn't aware it was a big problem, but I'm glad that they brought it to us. Perhaps that's a problem with our feedback. Maybe we're not listening to our students enough to know that that's a big concern, and we need to talk about that. We have a student representative to the Long Range Planning Committee. I hope that he brings that to us too, so we can talk about it when we're building our new schools and how we can create that. Wherever there's privacy, there's danger, I guess, of illegal activities. We have to balance that. I agree with you on that. But, obviously everybody needs to be able to go to school that's clean and well-maintained. And the fact that we have not continuously reinvested in our people is what's causing that. We need to get in that habit.
So I just met with one of our high school student councils, and this was their #1 topic that they wanted to talk about. And we talked about it for a while, trying to understand exactly what was going on. I think it's a multi-pronged problem in that, one, there are bathrooms that are shut down and closed, and so there's lack of access to bathrooms. Part of the problem, there's one maintenance individual for the building, and it takes time and resources and supplies to address that. So that goes back to our funding that we talked about before. Another part of the problem, bathrooms being shut down because of graffiti or the property being damaged. And I don't know if you all are familiar with the TikTok challenge that was out there a while ago, and I don't know if this is left over from that, where students went into bathrooms and destroyed the bathroom essentially. And so talking to the students, I was asking them what their thoughts were on the student side. A campaign with students to ensure that, we care about our bathrooms, we care about access to the bathrooms. And, that's something that maybe the student leadership could take on with trying to advocate for that within the school. But, having bathrooms is just a fundamental right that our students need to have. And they need to be able to access them. And I even heard teachers going home to use the bathroom as well. And so I do see it as a problem.
Yes, students, thank you for bringing this up as an issue. But I will tell you that you escape high school and you get into the workplace, and we have issues there as well. 62 Wilcox Drive, where the HRD and Centennial Water District both have their office space, really has one of the most disgusting smelling bathrooms, and we have employees that complain about it all day long, and they have tried everything they can to try to resolve it. And so it follows you out into the workplace, and that's sad to say. While I was sitting here on the very end of the row, I was able to do a very quick Google search and just vape detector. And just one thing that pops up: vape detection system, cutting edge, turnkey solution for detecting vaping and bullying, in particularly in school bathrooms. There are technology solutions out there, because I believe part of the question was not just the cleanliness and hygiene issue, but other things that take place inside of our school bathrooms that make them, quite honestly, not safe for some of our kids. And so again, another issue, because it's bubbled up from you guys, another issue that the school district, the school board, the superintendent and staff should be addressing. And if there is an access issue with not enough bathrooms being available, or just the bathrooms being unclean and a hygiene issue, students, I would recommend that you immediately try to bring that to the school principal's attention and have them address it throughout the day. Finally, let's all practice a little bit of self-hygiene, and hopefully that'll go a long way as well.
All right, that concludes our question time. So before we all start moving, we're actually going to have all the audience members stay seated until dismissed. And during that time, we're going to allow candidates to give their closing statements before we send everybody out into the hall. The candidates will start moving after they have given their closing statements. Please do not follow them until we have told you that it's okay to do so. We just don't want to create any clogged doors or safety issues tonight. There are also funding your future flyers and pamphlets on the table outside, referring to the plan for the MLO and bond. Candidates? Yes, you have it. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm also reading a short statement for Director Page, but I can hold that to the very end if you'd like. Okay, thank you. And we have 1 minute, is that correct?
Correct.
Our kids deserve the best. We believe, Jason, Maria, and I, that our school district was dramatically changed 2 years ago from a direction that did not honor parents, just the ones who know best the educational needs of their kids. We stand for all parents, but especially those who did not have a voice and had their voices silenced. We will focus on the partnership with our teachers and school district ready to prepare the children of Douglas and Elbert counties to be ready mentally, academically, and physically for the immense challenges of the future. Our teachers and staff deserve the best possible compensation for their dedication to teaching our kids. The three of us are passionate about the quality of public education and protecting parent choice. Long before the nation's and district's most recent school tragedies, our team advocated the safety of our children as the #1 priority. We stand up for student and teacher safety in our schools. We preach sensible business practices for school resources and the need to maintain excellence in education to prepare all students to be career or college ready. We want to be the architects of our school district's brightest future, and we are uniquely qualified to be the next school board directors in Douglas County. My name is Andy Jones, and I'm running to be your next school board director in District A, and thank you to the Student Advisory Group for having us tonight.
So I'm running for re-election to the Douglas County School Board with an emphasis on prioritizing and creating an educational setting that prioritizes academic learning and the well-being of each and every one of our students. Being a school board member is challenging work, and there's a steep learning curve. And there's a real cost to students and to our taxpayers when you have board directors making bad or poor decisions. I've worked to become more knowledgeable in how to be an effective school board member since being elected to our board. I will continue to hone those skills and advance our district's mission to ensure that we are providing an educational foundation that allows each student to reach his and her individual potential. My name is Susan Meek, and I welcome your support and your vote. I'm running for the District A seat. Thank you.
Thank you all for your paying attention. Thank you to the students for questions that dealt with what we need in Douglas County. Not, as I said, on Aunt Gertrude's Facebook page. We are here to talk about what the needs are of our students, of our parents, broader of our community, to create good citizens. We need to focus on those issues. That has not always been true in the board, either the current majority or in the past. We have to keep our eyes on the prize. What do people here need? Not what's trying to distract us, not what's trying to divide us. I have spent the last 9 years putting in hundreds of hours learning about this district, and I intend to put in hundreds of hours more when I'm on the school board, because that's the only way this is going to work. You have to know, you have to think, you have to try to work together with people you disagree with, and when they are wrong, tell them they are wrong and try to get them to where they are right. My name is Brad Geiger. I'm running in District C. Pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for your time.
I want to first thank the students for such brilliant and thoughtful questions. They were challenging, and I thoroughly enjoyed responding to them. And I would like to tell you a little bit about my priorities: school safety, security, and that every child who attends Douglas County schools feels that when they go to school, they are going to a safe and secure environment, in an environment where learning becomes easy because they don't worry about being bullied. They're not addressing other types of social issues that can impair their learning experience. So my focus would be on safety and security, as well as academic excellence, bringing in continued programs such as advanced placement for gifted kids and other types of programs, and for special needs. And I bring a unique set of skills. And someone said over there about AI. I have a lot of AI experience. So I could address a lot of AI. And I think that gives me sort of an out-of-the-box person to come on the board and really look at things and think critically. So my name is Maria Sumnick, and I'm running for District F, Douglas County School Board. Thank you.
Douglas County School District is an amazing school district. It's why I moved here with my family. We moved here for the schools. We moved within a very short walking distance to our elementary school. And I believe strongly that if you like what's happening in your community, that you should be engaged in sustaining that, which is why I'm here. Many things were brought up tonight, and I think some points that are important to point out are, I believe strongly in a collaborative approach to leadership, that education is a public service, and you should provide it with the community, not at it. And so to provide the service with the community, you have to engage with the community in a meaningful way. That means two-way dialogue. That means some of the amazing things that are starting to happen, as the focus groups that we have, among other things. That means actually engaging with your board committees in a meaningful way. It's a great free resource with lots of people in your community that have varied areas of expertise, and utilizing those things. providing board members' responsibilities to
15
provide
seconds.
sensibility and stability. They should be making data-driven decision-making, and it should not be political. So, Valerie Thompson.
All right, then, audience
Can I
members,
make a
please
final
stay.
comment for Jason Page?
Oh, that's right. No. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Thank you again, SAG Committee, for hosting this event. The core of the Douglas County School District has been and absolutely needs to continue to be academic excellence. If we anchor ourselves to that foundation, all other decisions will come into better focus. Academic excellence happens in safe and healthy environments. Academic excellence happens with well-compensated, motivated teachers. Academic excellence happens in learning from our failures, not being sheltered from them. Academic excellence happens when parents are an equal part of the process and not an afterthought. I'd rather be tired of doing the work that needs to be done in order to make and keep academic excellence and pathways for future success at the core of what the district stands for, than to be tired by complaining about the state of our schools without any action on my part. This will be hard, but I am choosing this hard. I'm here to work for you, the students, your parents, your teachers and staff, and the community. I pledge to work tirelessly to make DCSD the best for you so that you may one day serve your community in
15
amazing
seconds.
and impactful ways. Jason Page, District C.
All right, now we will have candidates begin to move to the hall. Audience members, please stay seated. We're going to take a short little break. Feel free to chat with friends, look at your phone, scroll through Instagram.